What is an AI native app really? And why does that even matter? Hello, my name is Kai, and I'm a software engineer in the venture capital space. And today I'd like to talk about why the AI native app perception matters. To start, I think it matters what your customers think of you. For our company, when our customers think that we're not AI native, they tend to move their orders away from us. So we're losing a lot of sales deals to our newer competitors who has portrayed themselves to be AI native. And as a result, the older SaaS software companies tend to do not so well because they do not have that AI native image. So then that begs the question, well, what is an AI native app? I think to answer that question, we'll probably need to look at what is not an AI native app. And I am open to your opinions on this, but the way I see it, if your app's business logic is done in the back end, then you're probably not an AI native app. So here's what I mean. Business logic is basically any sort of business processes that's not relevant to the technical architecture of your application. And when these business processes are encoded in the backend server, then it makes it a little difficult to change that business process. Essentially, you would need to have engineers to understand the business processes and update the code in the backend server to reflect these changes, which could be demanded by your customers or your internal users. So those are what business logics are. I think if your business logic is in the backend and you need engineers to make those changes, then there's nothing really makes you stand out as an AI native app. You could have chatbots or agents built on top of that. But to me, that is still a very rigid application, even if you were to use AI to write those business logic into the backend server. One example for that is the Navan expense app. So recently, I went to the Navan expense app to submit an expense, and sure enough, they have an AI chatbot that can submit the expense for me. So I tried it. I used the AI native expense app, but it still ended up coming back to me and asking me a question for every single field that I needed to fill out. So to me, I don't think there is an advantage there to be using a chatbot to submit the expense if the chatbot is not smart enough to fill out those fields themselves. So to me, that example is an app that is not AI native. So what is an AI native app anyway? In my opinion, there are two pieces to this. One is you have the use of background agents to handle business logic in your server, or you have some sort of plugin into an AI platform like OpenAI or Anthropic. So for background agents, usually the agents lives in your server and they can handle some business processes similar to what human does. These background agents can mimic what a human does really well, so you don't need to translate the processes from the way the human does it into a much more streamlined machine way of doing it. So the translation layer from how a human does it to how a machine does it is a lot simpler. You can just think of an agent like this is what a human would do. These kind of tasks would be like reading customers' emails and interpret what they meant, what their requests meant, extracting intelligence from documentation, PDF, spreadsheets, and then doing data lookup and making some sort of judgment call. I think these sort of ambiguous tasks that involves language can be done really well with the background agent, whereas a standard business logic defined in code don't perform so well. The other piece that I've seen a lot more lately with AI native applications, especially in plugins, where you're just opening up your Cloud desktop and you are building plugins for the Cloud desktop to interact with your existing web applications. So these would be a plugin, which is essentially a set of skills that interact with your company's data. A company that built this kind of plugin usually will provide some sort of API endpoint, so they can use an MCP. But these days, a lot of companies are switching to command line interfaces, so CLI. So they'll release a CLI package in which their skills are wrapped on top of, so that the plugin can easily access your proprietary data and perform work on top of that. So this is work that is similar to the background agent, but is done more so in the front end locally on your desktop machine or laptop machine. So the advantage of this is that you can shape the business logic very, very quickly because it's not deployed on the front end. So you can have a non-technical person, usually the business person, to update the business logic in the plugin. So you essentially remove the need of engineers to encode these business processes. I think that's a very huge advantage if you can achieve that and just use business people to create new business processes and eliminate the use of engineers. Not entirely, but for the most part, you just need the engineers to build the back-end technical work, and like most of the building business operations and application layer can be done by a project manager or someone that's familiar with the operations well. So to me, that looks closer to what an AI native app looks like. And in my opinion, the advantage of a front-end Cloud desktop plugin is that you can trigger some of this processing, pre-processing from the backend, and you get additional layer of thinking on top of that. So imagine an application where you already have a backend agent in the server, and the background agent in the server has already done some pre-computing on what the unit of work is, and then pass that result to the front end. And then in your front end, the Cloud plugin can do an additional layer of processing if the job is quite difficult and requires some human-like level judgment. Then in that case, the front-end Cloud plugin has an advantage where it can do an additional layer of thinking on top of that. And we'll find some surprisingly good results with that. However, the trade-off with that is with this additional layer of thinking, it comes with some performance bottlenecks. So we have seen that our plugins can sometimes run up to 5 to 10 minutes for each job to be done. And if the job is simple enough, then it's probably some business people have complained that it's much faster to just do it themselves. However, I don't think that's a scalable way. I think in the future, for example, accounting that had to handle cases that coming in and booking journals, it's a lot faster for them to have concurrent Cloud sessions to process these requests coming in at the same time in parallel. And that is definitely a lot faster than without AI or using some kind of web app. So to me, I think that's where the future is going. You would have some background agents, and you might be using some kind of AI platform on the front end to take that data and do additional thinking on it. So that's my view for the AI native app and what the current meta is. I'm still going through this phase myself, and I will be coming back for more interesting content. See you around.